Mitali, right sizing, rationalization is one way to look at it. But let's look at it from an Indian lens, right? We all talk about artificial intelligence and how there is going to be lesser dependence on human beings, but more dependence on all these machines and algorithms, what else you have. Are we really prepared when a company like Amazon says that I'm firing off 10,000 people? Or when a company like Twitter says, I'm now laying off all people, in my India office. There may be only 40, 50 or 60. But as we are now seeing on my LinkedIn profiles, I can tell you that all these people who had been hired on, very fancy salaries on all these big platforms today are struggling. What does it tell you about the business model? Do I look at the business model closely? Is it a question of business model being faulty?
Bhupen, it's a very interesting time, and definitely Indians have been disproportionately impacted by these layoffs because a lot of these layoffs are happening in tech companies, and Indians are the techies to the world. But I think that there is also a model in our, that there's a problem in our thinking as well. Why do we think that we are only going to work with few companies, or we are only going to work with one company for our whole life? We are not getting married to a company. So it's very important for even a worker and an employee in today's time to have a gig worker mindset, to think about transferable skills, that yes, I came here, I'm working here for 1 year, 2 years, but after this job may not exist. In fact, this job role may not exist, because the speed at which technology is developing, I have to constantly reskill myself to make myself employable to the next big, employer in town, who has the next big innovation where my skills can help that employer. And of course, we should also be thinking from an entrepreneurship mindset, that can I innovate and bring in the next big tech product or the next big application to the market. So I really think that the problem is a little bit in our mindset, that we always look for jobs rather than creating jobs.
But when you look at companies like Snap, Microsoft, Twitter, Google, these are all, you're talking about heavy. If Intel is thinking that 20% of the employees have to be asked to go, then why are these 20% people? Were they overstaffed? Was the business forecasting wrong? Therefore, I'm wondering whether it's a problem. Every business, and I say this to my teams, it's very nice to look at all these fancy and swanky Excel sheets and what else you have. You can put whatever number you want. But then to back those numbers requires some experience, requires, some skill set. Is there lesser dependence on experience now? Are we depending more on algorithms? And somebody came to me, I'll give you an example. Somebody came to me and said that I have this Python-based algorithm, and I'll put in all these numbers, and this algorithm will now throw this number. And look at your EBITDA margins, etc. So I was laughing. But is that what is happening now in all these tech companies?
So I think, Bhupen, definitely there is a higher reliance on artificial intelligence, on ML, sort of taking over routine tasks which earlier used to take a lot of time, and that much of labor time is not required on them. But if we look at the nature of the layoffs that has been happening in the last, few weeks, these are highly skilled people who are being laid off. These are not people who must have been doing only routine tasks that are being laid off. There is definitely a mismatch in, as Sohail very rightly said, in the advertiser money, in terms of the money that is flowing into the sector. But there's also a mismatch when we look at the innovation versus staff requirements. Now, maybe we don't need that much staff, but it is also incumbent upon those staff to reskill themselves and make themselves more employable in this new market reality.
Is that